Hey there, everyone. I'm Justin Lane Briggs. I'm the portfolio manager for Mexican spirits for Skurnik Wines and Spirits. And I have the great privilege of sitting here today with Daday Suárez, who is the founder of Alto Canto Tequila, one of the most thrilling new tequila brands that we have the luxury of working with here at Skurnik Wines and Spirits. So we're going to kind of unpack that a little bit today. It's new to us, and it's also new period. So we're going to kind of hear that story a little bit. Daday, welcome.
Thank you so much, Justin, for having me and for giving me the opportunity to talk to your audience and explain a little bit of what we're trying to achieve with Alto Canto.
It's a pleasure. It's an honor.
Thank you.
I wanted to dive in before we get into I know we have kind of a structure, but I'm going to mess with it right off the bat. Before we dive into kind of a sense of place and where you're based, I think that one of the things that I find really compelling, having gotten to know you, is your background and what kind of led you to create this tequila label. I think there's something. First, I'm going to tell you about yourself for a moment, if I may.
Sure.
There's something about you that I've learned in talking with you, where you have this kind of this wonderful attitude of like, if you fall in love with something or you decide you want to do something, you kind of invest your whole heart in it in a really deep way, and in a really like kind of a scale of commitment that I think is unusual in people. I'm thinking about when you became interested in philosophy, and so you went and got an extra degree in it. You kind of you were interested in learning more about wine, so you could order with more aplomb at restaurants, and then you went and became a sommelier. Yeah. Like there's this kind of like, well, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it attitude that's quite fascinating, and I would love to hear about how that came to bear upon creating a tequila label.
Yeah, sure. Well, when I was young on my 20s, I started working on the works or jobs that I had the opportunity to work with, but I couldn't choose because of I had to stay a little bit longer at college, and because I stayed a little bit in college, I missed my window of recruiting in these big corporations, so I couldn't have the traditional way, the corporate way to establish a career in a big company. So after a few years, around my early 30s, I started a human resources company. And this was because I knew about human resources and quality, but actually I didn't pick that business. It was the thing that I knew how to do, and that's what I did. So a couple of years ago, I decided to do another business, but something that I got passionate with. So that's how I entered to tequila. But in these 20 years that I've been with the other company, I started to lose a little bit of interest. So I decided to do another things. And one of the other things that I decided it was to study philosophy. I always had like an itch or an interest in other things, not only engineering, which is my background, or human resources. I'm curious, let's say, in that way. And philosophy is something that I really like because it's for my soul. It's just to keep my mind growing, to understand more what I'm dealing with reality, let's say, if I may use that philosophical term. So the being, and that's what I started. And right now I think it has served me in 2 or 3 different purposes. First one, to raise my kids. I have 3 sons, and that helped me. Secondly, to be a better person and to understand better society and where I'm doing business or which people I'm talking to. And the third, it's developing the tequila, understanding what everything is. When I decided to start tequila, I said what kind of tequila I wanted to do. So in a very philosophical and reflexive way, I decided to ask that question. What kind of tequila do I want to do? How do I consider which is the best tequila? What's the purpose of doing a tequila? So I started to, developing all these questions in my head and answering them. And mainly, I've been studying all the things that I like, and that's how I got into tequila. I don't know if I answer or you want me to.
No, you did. That's
okay.
Great. I think where I think I can see that coming to bear is that, a lot of people might start a tequila label and, let's say, happily contract from somebody well established or even somebody kind of industrial, people might be very comfortable just launching a brand. And in very sharp contrast to that, you've gone ahead and built a brand new fabrica, a brand new distillery. You've built it in a place where no one else is distilling. You've pursued all these things that are quite unique, and you've also, but with intention and very clear design behind it. And you've also pursued a lot of things that are very, very traditional and have like rooting in other productions that you admire. And so you're kind of like taking these two different things and like kind of really fully investing in them. Like again, that sense of like, if you're going to do something, let's fully do it. And I guess I would like to hear about like how you came to, let's say, the choice of elevation. So for listeners out there, Daday's distillery is the highest elevation distillery in Mexico.
In tequila, regarding it's the highest, and I think it's the third or fourth in all over the world. So
it's 9,000 feet up.
9,000 feet above sea level.
That's wild.
Yes, I started as many other brands, reaching out to suppliers to outsource the liquid and just bottle it. That was my first approach because the investment in a distillery is quite huge.
Sure.
So because I thought it would be almost impossible for me to build a distillery. I got the first approach to several high-end producers, high-end distilleries, but at that moment I saw that it was very difficult for me to say we're the best tequila if somebody else is producing the liquid or doing the process. So that being said, and also at the time the agave was really expensive, so it wasn't really a business for me with those prices in 2019 and 20. So I hired a very good master distiller, and I talked to him and I asked him how difficult or how costly it's building a distillery. So we started to, running numbers, planning it, and at the end of the day, I was able to build a distillery. So when I saw, well, it's feasible economically for me to build a distillery, I asked him, where do we build it? And he told me we needed to do it in a high altitude. And he lives in Mazamitla, where the distillery is, and he took me there. And I tell him, you want to build a distillery here because it's your home place and your birthplace. And no. Listen to me. Let me explain to you why it's important, the altitude. So he expressed to me that at that height, all the processes are run or behave in a better way. The cooking, the fermentation, and the distillation take place on lower temperatures and high humidity. So that helps to cook the agave in a softer way. That helps the yeast to ferment in a better environment. And the distillation, because the alcohol evaporates in a lower temperature, it keeps some other kinds of alcohols that at higher temperatures are not allowed to. So all of this, it's only being able to be done at that 9,000 feet altitude. So that's how we choose the elevation. On the other hand, we place it in a high mountain when there's nothing. There's no roads, there's no buildings, there's anything whatsoever.
How do you get there?
It was very difficult. It took us almost a year to find a land because most of the lands over there are forestal or not allowed to build something. So it was
like they're preserved, they're protected?
Yeah, they're preserved and protected. You can find armadillos and coyotes and these nice birds all around the place. So it was difficult for us to find a place where we can build a distillery. Then we had to put electricity. We brought the electricity like 500 yards from the nearest place. We have to pave a little the road because it was extremely bumpy. We have to bring the water, the internet, everything from scratch. So it was challenging, but if I really wanted to do the best tequila, it was to be in a special place, and that's how we found that place.
I love that your moment of the story. The master distiller is named Juan. See,
Juan Reyes. Yeah. He's like a very, very unique person. I love him. We're like an old married couple. he was in Patron for over 10 years. He was under Francisco Alcaraz, a very recognized master distiller, working for him over 10 years. But when Bacardi took Patron, the things changed, and
Sure.
he decided to leave. And he left Patron, and 2 weeks later, I was interviewing him for a job. He already had been offered another position in another mezcal company. But at the moment, I interviewed him, and I started talking with him like you. And after 10 minutes, I say, "You're hired. You're the guy. You are the one that I want."
Nice.
And we've been together since December 2018, and it's been an extremely fun and challenging ride because we both want to do the best tequila, but each one of us has a different path
ideas. Well,
and different ideas. Yes.
I was going to say, I love the moment of imagining him saying to you, "We need to go high elevation," and you saying, "Okay." And then what we wind up with, which speaks to both, of course, where he's from, but also, again, to my mind, hearing it, kind of placing it in the narrative of how I see you, I suppose, sort of like, oh, high elevation. I'm going to go fully into that too. Let's go 9,000 feet up. Let's just keep going.
Exactly. I wanted more altitude, but it wasn't possible. But but I wanted more. So, it's I'm full in, and the reason of that, it's as I told you before, my first business. It was kind of the situation, but this one, it was very determined, very purposely thought about. I wanted to do tequila, so I got very into it, and not only the altitude, many other things. I'll tell you later, but we started with the altitude. But before I built the distillery, Juan has been working in many areas inside Patron. And I told him, "Do you know how to do tequila?" But one thing, it's working in a huge company producing tequila, but the other thing is, can you do from A to Z the whole process? So we built a micro distillery with a small copper pot still, a small oven. And
how big was that first copper pot that you were playing with?
20 liters. So it was
tiny,
just to know that. And we use a canoe, and we build a canoe, and inside of the canoe for milling, and
for those of you listening in who don't know, a canoe, you'd think of it like almost like a mortar and pestle. You'd use a mallet or a hammer or some sort of kind of almost like a giant baseball bat, and you kind of like mill it down by like mortar and pestle style, just pounding the agave away.
Exactly.
That's wild.
Yeah. So we built that micro distillery at that high altitude to know if we were able to develop the tequila. So he came up to me with the first batch, and he told me, "We nailed it. It's a beautiful tequila." And I drank it, and I didn't like it. So I told him, "I'm sorry, but this is not good enough." And he did 16 or 17 batches. We tried different kinds of yeast processes, and at the end, wild fermentation. It was the flavor and the profile that we wanted, and I said, "This is it." And we used the top tier tequilas as a benchmark. So Fortaleza, Cascawin, G4, and I don't remember a couple more. We were using to test our profiles against them in a blind tasting, and we used another sommelier so we don't be biased about our tequila. And once I thought we were in that conversation, then I said to Juan, "We're ready to go and build a distillery." So first we try in a micro distillery. I looked that Juan was able to do the whole process, and then we started building the distillery. Funny story about that. We were using a small tower or condensation equipment, and needed to have ice because it was so rudimentary or so. So he finished in one of the
like
productions.
a small column. You mean?
Yes, yeah, with ice. But it was all improvised. And in one of the productions, he finished the ice of the whole town. He started buying all the ice boxes or bags, and he finished the ice of the town, and they were complaining that the bars and other people didn't have enough ice for the restaurant. So it was fun. Oops. It was fun. Yeah. At that time doing that, and then we started building the distillery through pandemic, so it wasn't easy because the workers got sick, and it was tough. It was tough.
It's harder to get things. The supply chain is all messed up. You're trying to get what you need, your resources.
Exactly. Also, the trucks didn't want to go that high. It
Sure.
was they feared that they will.
Yeah.
How do you say?
I've been on some of those roads. Tip over.
Tip over.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
that's
Yeah. So they
very
were
real
feared.
concern.
So it was slow. It's a small distillery. It's not as big as these high-end producers or big, huge corporations, but it's more than enough to produce the tequila and the volume that we are aiming to sell this first year. So that's a little bit how we started. But yes, I'm very into it, and that was one of the reasons that Juan and I have been fighting so much because, for instance, the philosophy that it's behind Alto Canto, it's bringing the best tequila to the market with the less intervention possible. So we don't want to mess with the agave. We just want to bring out the flavors and the aromas and all its nutrients and all its properties in a distillation process, but not putting anything whatsoever. No additives, obviously. It's organic agave. We don't want to put yeast. We don't want to put nutrient. We don't want to put anything. So it's very difficult to have a good product without intervening the process. So that's a little bit what we were struggling at the beginning to develop the formula.
Yeah, I kind of pumped my fist when you're mentioning the eventual decision to use ambient, to use wild yeast, which isn't personally, there are many spirits and fermented beverages that I love that have all kinds of different controls, through yeast and pitching and inoculation. And I certainly never, not getting dogmatic about that, but I do kind of gravitate towards that in terms of agave spirits because it feels closer to both mezcal, which is kind of where I came into the agave spirits world, and also it feels like one of the spaces where you can see the most clear sense of terroir quite often in an agave spirit is the place of production and the way that the yeast of that place is reflected in the eventual product. And I have to wonder at 9,000 feet up, like how different is that environment, not just for growing agave. I don't know if you grow at that elevation or we probably can't, right? Probably you're growing at lower elevation. And then bring it there?
I source the agave from 2 different suppliers because it's organic. And obviously because of the time that it takes to grow the agave until it's mature, 6-7 years. So we are planning in the
if you
next
begin in
step.
2018, you'd be starting your first batches now. Yeah, sure.
Exactly. So I'm planning to start harvesting our own agave in the future. But right now we have 2 suppliers of organic agave, one from the highlands and one from the lowlands. There are just a handful of organic agave suppliers in Mexico because it's not well recognized, the quality and that organic process. But yes, it's difficult to have yeast at that elevation.
Yeah, I was imagining there must be less, not just agave, which it sounds like you're agreeing, you're kind of reinforcing my assumption that maybe it can't grow at that elevation. Does agave even grow at 9,000 feet up in your experience?
No, there wasn't any problem. But
great, cool.
At the beginning, when we finished the distillery and we started to produce the first batch, Juan told me, I hope that it works. I hope it ferments. And I was, what? We just invested all this time and resources, and he didn't know if it was going to ferment.
Like, I've been spitballing this whole time. But no. I was curious, what other kinds of flora grow there? What other kinds of things are influencing the yeast that's in the air?
There are a lot of fruit trees.
Okay.
And there are a lot of berries surrounding the mountains. And so it's very fertile, the land. So what we did is we planted several kinds of trees that their yeast are very well, engaged with the agave fermentation, which are cranberries, apples, agave, obviously, just for the yeast, not for the production.
Are there certain varieties of agave that work better at that elevation for you? Have you played with that?
I don't remember the different species, but they are wild agaves over there. But we planted a blue agave, so the yeast, it will help the fermentation. Also, there's a Mexican fruit called tejocote. It's a yellow plum that it's from the surroundings. So there's a lot of fruits surrounding the distillery, and we made a curtain surrounding the distillery with these plants. And also we planted lavender to propagate
Nice.
everything. So that's some of the things that we are trying to do with less intervention. We need to play with mother nature in a sense, so it can do its work in the fermentation. So the first batch, it took us like 8 days to ferment. Now it's taking us 3.5 days. It's almost as we use a propagated yeast or industrial yeast. It takes almost the same time.
Huh.
So the yeast are helping us.
Yeah.
The distillery, it's built with bricks, and the reason we did that it's because we wanted that the yeast live inside the bricks, so we can make a micro ecosystem inside the distillery, so they can propagate naturally without having to do anything
Very
other
cool.
than that. So I think we are still trying to understand many things because the trees are growing. We are getting each time more and more yeast inside the distillery. So we are still, I think, very new or very early in the process. I believe that in a couple of years we're going to be able to pick the profile, even though I believe it's really good so far. But we are still understanding many things.
You're using, when you ferment, you're using like wood tinas, wood fermenters?
Yes, we are old school as we can get. Stone brick ovens. The bricks were tailored or handmade from the surroundings. We're using Tahona. We brought the stone from Oaxaca because we wanted that kind of stone in the milling. The fermentation, it's in wooden tanks, American oak barrel. We only use American oak barrel to maintain consistency in everything. It's open fermentation, and we do two fermentations. The first one, obviously, the alcoholic with the yeast of the wild yeast. And we do a second fermentation, malolactic, in order to bring down the alcohol notes, create more viscosity or oiliness in the tequila, and create some different notes. So because of my background as a sommelier, I wanted to emulate or do something like wine. So that's a little bit. And then after we do that, we do with the fibers. We do the fermentation with the fibers, which is more mezcal process than
Yeah.
a tequila.
Do you leave the fibers in during distillation as well?
Exactly, and
Okay.
then we use almost all the fibers in the distillation. We don't use them all of them because our pot stills are small, and it doesn't fit all the fibers. But we use as much fiber as we can get on the first distillation. They are copper pot stills. They are tiny. They are tiny for the industry, 600 liters. And we do two fermentations. We don't filter the tequila. We only use paper filter for, some debris or some, little thing, but we don't use anything. So what you're drinking, it's exactly what you're bringing out from the copper pot.
That's wonderful.
Yes, and the chemical analytics becoming a little technical, not too much. We don't have any aldehydes, which are very toxic.
Aldehydes. Yeah.
Aldehydes, yeah. Most of the batches are 0 or 0.002, so it's as pure as it can get. And the esters, the alcohols that gives the nose and the mouth, most of the tequilas are around 20 units. We are around 60 or 70 units. That's what it gives Alto Canto the flavor and the aromas.
Yeah. When you even open the bottle, you can kind of like smell it from a little distance that way.
Exactly.
That makes sense.
We haven't been able to do all the testings during the process. We don't have the equipment yet. So that's why I'm very confident that we are still going to improve the process. So because we're going to start doing more testing during all the stages.
Well, practice makes closer and closer to perfect too.
Exactly.
Before we get too far into that side of the conversation, I wanted to spend one more moment with the elevation, if I could, and just ask you how else you feel that unique place and
Yep.
unique elevation influences the final results of your process.
Everything it works and runs smoothly. I don't want to get too holistic or anything.
Get philosophical. Do it. You have a degree. Come on.
Okay. But the nature, because there's no anything surrounding, everything runs really smoothly. The temperature in that area during the year, it's around 50 or 60 Fahrenheit degrees. That's more or less the average temperature. So it's kind of chilly. Well, not for you here in the US, but for us, it's kind of chilly.
It's
But
still cool.
okay,
sure,
yeah. And everything it's humid, and it's pure. The air, everything it's pure. The water, we bring the water from that elevation, so it's like a glacier water because it's really cold. So the water has 0 pH, so it's very neutral without any metals or anything. So everything that we do, it's very pure. So the fermentation, you can see, smell, and feel how it takes place. And how do we know that? Because we have wasps and bees coming inside the distillery, and we cannot avoid that. And sometimes it's very difficult for us to take out wasp or bees or things like that because they smell the sugar and they come running into the distillery. The residuals, the vinaza, I don't know the name in English.
Yeah.
We use it for the farmers. We have several avocado farmers nearby, and they use it to fertilize their avocados, and they have these huge avocados as a result of using our vinaza and of our fiber. So the aging, we built a cabin at that high altitude just beside the distillery, and we only use stone brick oven, adobe bricks, tile, and some woods in the ceiling. So the barrels, which are new, they only breathe the terroir.
You're using all virgin oak.
It's new American oak barrels, medium toast, and we only use them once, maybe twice for some añejos, so it's more smooth. But we don't use any other kind of barrels.
What are you doing with the spent barrels after you've used them
Want
once?
one? We haven't. We don't know yet because we're just producing the first time.
We'll
so
figure that out later.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, we don't know there.
And yes, I'll take one.
Okay, but what I'm trying to tell you, it's the reposado that it's aged in this kind of Spain type of cabin. It only breathes the terroir. It only breathes the wood and the soil and the stone. So everything it's soft, it's pure. So actually, we didn't know what to expect, but because we did everything in that regard or in that way or in that sense, everything has run very, very smoothly. The cooking, the fermentation, you get into the distillery, and the smells remain and the humidity remains. Yeah.
Do you find that the extraction from the barrels, of course, is going to be plays out differently because it is at such an elevation as well? Do you find that like the barrel influence in that time is?
Yes. For instance, in tequila or arandas, it's very hot, and it dries very fast or evaporates the alcohol during the aging process. They need to put some air conditioning or something like that in order to avoid big evaporation. We don't need to do that. So everything, the barrel, it how do you say, opens because of the high humidity, and we can keep almost all the alcohol. So all the notes and all the extraction that we have from the barrels are run very, very, very nice. So it's been fun. And again, in this cabin, the bees, they live, and the wasp, they don't do anything to you. But if you enter in during winter, you can have like 20 or 30 bees all over you, and they're very cordial. You don't have to. Very, very polite. If you don't bother them, they don't bother you. They don't stick you. So, as you can see, we are, I don't know, mingled or entangled with other species, with the trees, with everything. So that's one of the purposes of this tequila, not only producing tequila, but maintaining the harmony and equilibrium with the surroundings. And the residuals are going to the farmers. So far, once we get bigger, then we will see how we can process. We want to do another bioecological projects in order to be more sustainable. So that's the whole purpose, not to affect the surroundings of the mountain.
I love
Okay.
it. Yeah, that's fantastic. Before we continue, should we have a small toast, because we're sitting here with a bottle and glasses
Sure.
poured here? What do we have in our glasses here?
Here it's one of the best expressions that we have released so far. It's Alto Canto High Proof. It comes at 48 ABV. And actually, this is the distillation of this expression. It's got at 49 ABV, so it's almost directly from the still.
Almost still strength. but not
Almost a
quite.
still strength, and you can say it's a still strength. We don't cut it at 48 because it's extremely difficult to cut it exactly at 48. And if we cut it a little bit more, it will go down 48 and we won't be on regulation. So that's why we cut it a little bit above at 49, and we just put just a tiny water just to be perfect on the 48 ABV, so we don't get, banned or anything, or off the 48 ABV regulation. Did I get myself explained?
No, I'm confused. What do you mean the regulation for 48?
When each batch, the CRT measures the percentage of
Sure.
alcohol.
Are you saying this specific? You're saying this specific batch you've only adjusted very, very slightly because it was so close anyway, or are you saying that?
No. In order to be in compliance at 48 ABV, we cut it at 49, and then we just put the exact amount of water to be a target at 48 ABV.
Okay.
Because if we cut it at 48, and sometimes it evaporates,
Right. It might just continue to decrease.
goes to 47. So
Okay.
it's more difficult to add alcohol than to just put a drop of
So
water.
you're kind of at like 48 and change.
Exactly, 48 and exchange. So it's 49, and so it's directly from the still. We don't filter it. It's just agave water, wild yeast, and that's it. So
Well, it's delightful.
Enjoy.
Cheers.
for those of you who are watching, but you cannot smell. First of all, I don't know if you noticed, you can place your nose all the way inside of the glass, and there's no this huge burn or alcohol note.
Yeah.
So it's very soft in that regard. It's fresh. It's like I don't know, like being in a meadow or in a forest or something
Very
like
much so.
that.
Very green, slightly floral.
Exactly.
Really pretty tropical fruits.
Exactly. Some citrusy. Cut hay, I think it's a little there. Cooked agave. This is good. And the mouth, it runs very smoothly.
Yeah, the texture is awesome. It's been one of my favorite things since I first started tasting your work.
Oily. It doesn't burn. You don't feel the burn neither on your lips or your palate. And the aftertaste, it's really good. So this has been very praised and recognized, this expression, in the few months that we have been on the market. So we're very proud of this expression. This was all Juan. I didn't want to do a high proof, and he told me it's necessary, a high proof, and I said, well, let's do it. And
Well, that's a great segue, actually. Now that we're loosened up a little bit, Juan was saying we need to do a high proof. Is that a response to the kind of the trend in the market? Is
no.
That's purely.
He liked it because he told me at 40 ABV, it's really soft. We can still put more alcohol and be really soft and very unique. And he convinced me that high proofs were a valuable expression, because these discussions took place like 4 years ago, before it got this huge trend about high proofs that it has been on the market for the past 2 years. So
Oh, sure.
we developed the packaging and everything 4 years ago. So he was the visionary man. Juan was the one who thought about this, and well, we're loving it. This
Yeah. Well, if I may, why do you Why do you think that there is a trend towards higher proof tequilas, and what else do you see happening in the kind of the larger scope of tequila right now? Where does Alto Canto kind of fit into that conversation? Are you guys an outlier, or are you guys part of a growing movement? Like, where do you think that it's kind of a number of questions at once, but
Perfect. First of all, regarding the market, I wanted to do the best tequila possible with less intervention, but I wanted to be sure that the market it was going to understand the product and they wanted to taste it. One thing it's doing the things you think are the right way, and the other thing it's that the market accepts them. So we saw a hole in the market or a gap where we can fit in a higher category. Most of the brands are not as artisanal or high with high quality liquid, and they are more focused on the branding and the lifestyle and another communication regarding tequila. We don't want to do that. We want to present a luxury high-end tequila, but very, very consistent with the profile and the process and the environmental awareness that we are producing the tequila with. So that's we want to fill a lot of checkpoints or gaps in the market. So that's one of the reasons of the package that we have at this high quality packaging, because we feel that now tequila has earned a space in the market of spirits. The growth in the past 20 years, it's been amazing. And even though it's been amazing and these big corporations had helped open this space, which I'm grateful for. I'm not those guys that, those additive guys or industrialized guys, they help opening a space for tequila. But I don't think that there are enough brands out there that are the high-end quality, premiumness, and consistency in all the matters right now. So we are aiming to that point to have a space in luxury, in high quality, but also as a craft process. So we are as craft as any other tequila. Our flavor, our profile, it's amazing, but we believe that this is a product that you can share on a Christmas, on Thanksgiving, on a beautiful party, when you're by yourself with a cigar and a reposado. That's a view. So the marketing is opening. I don't know for how long the market is moving from what I've seen in these months that I've been here in the U.S. working. Many other stuff it's going on here in the U.S. But I honestly believe that a good product with a correct price point and a good philosophy and a consistency in its delivery of quality has a space in the market. So that's what we're trying to do: become consistent, become better, become the go-to brand, let's say, for that. I've seen very good brands that they are not able to keep up the demand that they have right now. So we want to fill that spaces that some other brands are not able to fill right now. So I think we have a space. I know that it's not quick and easy to be able to communicate all these things that we're talking today, but that's our goal, no? To let people know that Alto Canto it's an honest product, a good product. We are not a phony. We don't outsource. We don't sell. I'm not planning to buy the brand anytime soon. Everybody asks me that.
to sell the brand.
Sell the brand. They actually, I don't know if I already told you this, but I've been approached 3 times already. And the 3 times already before I even sold a bottle. Last year, 3 times I've been approached. The last one by some lawyers here in New York. They approached me if I wanted to sell
To sell the whole brand.
yeah, exactly. And I say, I haven't sold a single bottle and you want me to sell the brand? No. This is a legacy project. This is something that I'm doing because I like it. Evidently, I want to make a buck or two. That's important because you cannot sustain
That's how these things last. Yeah.
exactly. But this is something that I will feel proud of when I go outside to a bar or to sell the tequila. I feel very excited to share the product and the process and the story.
Well,
And that,
you said before to me that you hope that that this will be something that like your family will carry on as well.
I hope so. I hope that because this is not how do you say, a short-term project.
Right.
So it's going to take a couple of decades, I believe, at least, to become, recognized nationwide in a good sense. So by that time, my sons, I believe they are going to be elder, and maybe they come at that time. I don't know. We haven't talked about yet. I want them to do whatever they want to do, but
But it's nice to give them the option.
exactly to the option to come. But yes, I want to remain it as pure as I'm doing it right now in the future. And the market, I think the market is shifting regarding tequila. I don't know a lot of bourbon or whiskey or other things. I am more focused on the tequila. I think in the premium 100% agave category, the consumer is becoming more aware. He learns more. He's more interested in how their tequila is being done and processed and everything. I was in Florida 2 weeks ago in a festival, a tequila festival, and the people approached me and they logged into these apps of ratings and process. And once they saw how we were doing our tequila, then they approach and try to taste it. So first they make sure that they are, tasting and approaching the good brand, and then they go.
I have a feeling that's probably all tequila matchmaker.
That's right. Yeah. They look. Okay. Now you give me. Yeah, but first, that doesn't happen in Mexico, for instance. In Mexico, we don't have that level of interest and education regarding tequila. It's impressive how much more brands do you have here in the U.S. The tequilas that you have here are way better than we have in Mexico. It's very difficult to have most of the brands that I can look and see in the stores. In Mexico, we just have
Less access.
less access. So that's the reason we are exporting here.
Will you be selling in Mexico as well? Taxes, I understand, are
That's another reason.
there we go.
Yeah, taxes and maybe tariffs. Taxes, they are way higher in Mexico. So it's very difficult to start a brand over there with that taxation. And also the distribution, it's very different from here in the US. So those two things make very difficult to start selling in Mexico. But what we are trying to do, it's in a couple of years, once we have established certain recognition level in the US, we're going back to Mexico. First, we're going to start selling directly, which we are allowed in Mexico to do. And then through distribution, once people starting to know Alto Canto in Mexico, and hey, I've seen in the US or I try in the US. Also, we're having a strategy to sell in resorts or touristic places where a lot of US residents go to
Sure. We'll
for
expose it that way.
vacation.
Yeah.
So when they come back here, they can have. But right now, our main focus is the US market. It's been very welcoming for me, I have to say. The market has been very open to this new product. I think that the consumer, the distributor, and the retailer, once they understand what we're trying to do, they are very open to us. So it's just my work to start working and communicating with everybody the philosophy and the product. But the market, it's been good for us. We're still in our very early stages, so I cannot forecast what it's going to happen
Yeah, of course.
in a couple of months, and neither I can forecast what it's going to happen about the market. It's shifting very quickly in many regards regarding wine and other substances. So I don't know about tequila, but still growing. The people is still liking it.
Still, yes, knock on wood. But we are also. I mean, you sort of mentioned it a moment ago, and I think earlier you also mentioned there's a lot of how did you say it? Like a lot of moving pieces or a lot of different conditions in the U.S. or something like that right now. I forget like how you phrased it, but we're certainly in the midst of a very unusual time in this country. So while we have this like massive escalation of agave spirits and of tequila in particular over the last 20 years, does that give you any pause? Does that give you any worry? How do you feel as a Mexican national and somebody who's doing international business with the U.S.?
We need to be prepared. I don't. I've been doing business for over 20 years, and you need to adapt. The only reason that you survive any kind of business is be able to adapt the circumstances.
Mm-hmm.
And each time they move faster and faster. So, yeah, it was very steady, the relationship between Mexico and the U.S. for since 1994 that NAFTA started, and now it's getting a bit of a rocky road right now, or some bumps. Let's find out how this affects, but we need to adapt. I think that the market is going to understand what is happening, and the people who like tequila, I think they are still going to buy tequila if they have to pay 2 or 3 or 5 or whatever more dollars they are going to have. Maybe some shift a little bit. It depends on the category. But I think if you want to be successful in a brand or whatever, you need to be able to not get frozen or complain about these changes. You need to be able to see the way that benefits you. The Chinese have this phrase that every crisis it's an opportunity, something like that.
Yeah.
So we need to find that. Maybe I can do a discount program in order to sell more tequila, and I don't know. I was thinking in that sense.
It does feel also like if things are on such thin ice to begin with, then you don't have something that's very stable or sustainable on its own to begin with. If you're that vulnerable, but potentially, but for some people that is the case.
I think the big players are the ones who are going to feel it not
burn the most. Yeah, that might be true too. I agree. The people who are passionate about it will stick with it, and I think that you are ideally situated in some ways in that conversation because you're already at a premium space where people are going to not feel the change of a couple dollars quite as intensely as people at a lower price point. But I think also it's an interesting. I think it's going to be interesting to see the way that people kind of like readjust as consumers here their relationship to a sense of place and a sense of almost like kind of a like nationalism through the lens of something that they're starting to like so much that's being sort of like very directly kind of like poked at, you know?
Yes, I can sense that. Maybe the other brands that are selling at a lower price point or in other markets, they're going to be really, really affected.
Yeah.
I don't know as much as the market right now as the U.S. market and the trends in the consumers because I have been only for a few months, so I'm still learning. I don't want to assume anything. But
sure, yeah.
Yeah. So that's the reason I don't go wider because I don't want to be pretentious knowing many other things. But I will try to adapt. I don't think that the tariffs are targeting tequila in general. I think they are targeting other areas of commerce.
Damage.
Yeah, exactly. We're collateral damage. So that's it. But on the other side of the market, it's when I go out and then see your economy, I'm amazed of the power that you have to sell and promote different ideas, different approaches, different brands, not only in tequila, but in many other things. I've been staying here for a week and I have so many different kinds of breakfast, self-serving breakfast and on-the-go breakfast and these fancy restaurants for breakfast. You have a capability to developing the economy and the market in a very unique way. So I don't know really how this is going to happen, but I hope for the best of the both of us, you and I, well, U.S. and Mexico, because we are so close, not only economically, families,
Yeah.
yeah, culture, traditions, many things. So I hope that after these pumps we can get back to a steady relationship.
Yeah. Keep
Yeah.
sharing the space. I agree.
Yes, I think so.
Um, I was realizing I wanted to ask. So you're one of the few people I've talked to who has achieved a NOM, acquired certification under the CRT, achieving a NOM in like recent
Years.
memory. Yeah. What was that like? Did you guys have a party? Was that a big celebration, or was that like, oh, finally, bureaucracy done, paperwork over? Was it like, did you celebrate? Did you throw up your arms in joy? Did you just file it away in a filing cabinet? What was that moment?
I was glad that you asked, because first of all, you need to build a distillery. And then afterwards, you need to produce one batch of tequila in order to get the final number of your NUM. But in order to get the NUM, you need to check 600 different questionnaire points.
Yeah.
So there are 600 points that you need to get the okay. So it's extremely difficult. It took us like 3 weeks to get the NUM, all the process of the evaluation and testing and that. More than a celebration, it was exhausting. I gotta be honest, because it's very stressful that you don't know if you're gonna make it or not. Because as you already told me, there are so many few new NUMs, and I didn't know that at the moment. So I just started building and then say, well, I'll build, and then I produce. No, I didn't realize how difficult it was to get a NUM. So once we got the job, the NUM, sorry, once we got the NUM, Juan did party a lot by himself. I was in Mexico. He partied a lot, and he sent me a picture with the NUM, with the certificate. He was so happy. I was more stressful, but he was the one who received the certification, so he was really happy. But it's difficult. That's why I think many of the brands start with outsourcing the process, the product, and then they build a distillery, because it's not easy. 600 different checks that you have to get in order to be approved. So yes, but I'm glad that I have it, and now I can brag about it. I have my own NUM. And I go. Yesterday I went to the establishment in New Jersey, and we have our own NUM. And he logged into Tequila Matchmaker, and he saw that we ranked third, and then he said, "Oh, now I can make you. Now I can pay attention to you." So once he saw the number 3 ranked, and it was our own NUM, then he changed. That was the game changer.
Light bulb went off.
Yeah, exactly. So, but yeah, it's difficult. But Juan celebrated it more than me. Yeah. He was very happy.
Well, Daday, I want to thank you. This has been a wonderful and illuminating conversation. And before we sign off here and let people go taste for themselves, is there any parting message you could leave us with?
First of all, I'm very thankful to Skurnik and you guys that you are giving me the opportunity to get here into the U.S. market. It's not easy for a new brand to get here and to start developing the market and starting to reaching out to U.S. consumers. So I'm very thankful. I understand that it's not an easy, how do you say, that you take a risk on another brand because of many restrictions. So first of all, I'm very thankful. Secondly, as I told you before, this is another honest product. And so each time a consumer can drink or taste or, be able to buy Alto Canto, I want them, first of all, that they feel that they are buying an honest product, a product that it's produced with integrity, trying to become the best one in the market, trying to become the most articulated organic profile regarding tequila. But mainly, we just want you to take a sip and feel a little bit of Mexico. Just take a sip, enjoy the tequila, feel that you're in the mountains and sipping a beautiful tequila that it's made with little or no intervention at all. So enjoyed it. Feel the warmth, the work, the as I told you, the integrity and the vision that we have to be able to share with you a little piece of Mexico here with you. So that's more or less what we're trying to do here.
Daday, when we drink Alto Canto, should we hold our breath to try to recreate the experience of having less oxygen at 9,000 feet up?
Please do so. Just take another breath so you don't choke. But yeah, you can do that. Yeah, it's wonderful. I hope that you can come to see the elevation and hold your breath directly in the distillery.
I hope everyone can.
Yeah.
Well, I want to thank you again for spending time with us and joining us here on the 9th floor. And thank you, Will, for making this happen. Nothing left to say besides salud.
Salucita, like you say here.
Salucita.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Justin.